Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Are you all very well?
Yes.
I'll be honest. This is pretty weird. In fact, I think this might be the start of a breakdown. You could be in for a treat tonight. I am half expecting Gaza to come down the stairs with some chicken, a fishing rod, and a dressing gown, trying to save me. I'm disabled, wearing a dress, and I look like a drag queen. Still, at least I know how Heather Mills feels every day. I think one of the most depressing things is the fact that I actually look more attractive like this than I do usually. And don't pretend you weren't checking me out. I blatantly saw you. Funnily enough, I've been doing gigs at the Hyena Comedy Club all weekend, and most of the hen parties looked like this as well. That's right. I've only been a girl for a few minutes, and I'm already starting to bitch. I suppose it's all for a good charity, though. I've always liked to raise money. In fact, my sponsored silence is going really well. 32 years and counting. I suppose it's all for a good charity, though. I've always liked to raise money. In fact, my sponsored silence is going really well. 32 years and counting. I have also raised lots of money by walking up Northumberland Street with a tin. It wasn't for a charity. I just wanted to see how gullible some people were. The answer is a great deal. I did feel a little bit bad though, so I used the money to build myself a well. I also used to cook meals for homeless people when I was a chef at the Wetherspoons. I'd be lying if I said I was doing this for charity though. I just want to amuse myself by getting a little girl to swear. Fuck. Bastard. Bitch. Wanker. This is my whole set for the next 20 minutes. By the way, arsehole. Cunt. Cocksucker. Bollocks. Freak. Arsewipe. I should also point out that I couldn't be bothered to change all the gender references in my material, so I might talk about girlfriends instead of boyfriends. Basically, what I am saying is that Lost Voice Girl is a lesbian. If any girls are interested in exploring afterwards, I'll be available in the disabled toilet. It's great to be here. No, really. It's a miracle I made it down all the stairs in one piece. I do realise that it is pretty ironic that a disabled comedian is playing one of the most inaccessible venues in the city. I did invite some of my friends who use wheelchairs to the gig for a laugh. The lazy bastards haven't turned up yet. Just be careful on the stairs in case any of them are trying to crawl down. In case you were still in any doubt, I really am disabled. It's definitely not just really good acting. And I'm not just in it for the parking space. I lost my voice when I was very young, and I haven't found it since. Don't you just hate it when that happens? I've looked everywhere for it. Down the back of the chair, in the washing machine, everywhere. On the bright side, I did find the television remote control, £3 tinged and used, Brother Johnny. That's now safely back in my wallet. Don't worry though, you can't catch it from me. It just means that you better not get stuck behind me on the stairs if there's a fire, and that I get the best seats on buses. It's a small price to pay. When I realised I'd never be able to talk again, I was speechless. I began to try to communicate through the medium of dance. A bit like Strictly Come Dancing crossed would give us a clue. People just thought I was taking an epileptic fit. Before we go any further, let's deal with the elephant in the room. I know what you were all thinking when you saw me come on stage. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It happens all the time, and I'm used to it by now. You were thinking, here comes another wanker with an iPad. You'd been mistaken. I'm a disabled wanker with an iPad. The difference being that I pay for the iPad with my benefit money. Don't tell David Cameron. He still thinks I can't walk, still have bad eyesight, and have a problem with my bladder. Unfortunately for those closest to the stage, one of those facts is actually true. So, while I might not take the piss out of you tonight, you might be hoping to take the piss out of me instead. Let's face it though, Dave isn't a big fan of disabled people. I'm sure he thinks I'm going to wake up one day and not be disabled anymore. Or maybe even hopes I don't wake up at all. It kind of gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling that I disappoint Dave every morning. The bush fucker. Of course, I haven't always been a comedian. I guess I should tell you a bit about my background. It seems to be a little child dressed up as a cowboy trying to commit suicide. Nothing says comedy more than that, really. I always like to imagine he has just found out that his real father is Lance Armstrong. As you can see, most of my jokes write themselves. But that's the beauty of autocorrect on the iPad. Of course, autocorrect isn't always my friend. For those of you who don't know, autocorrect is when the iPad tries to guess what you're typing and changes it for you. As you can imagine, this can become pretty annoying and slightly embarrassing when you use it as a communication aid. For example, I got some chewing gum stuck in my hair the other day. I asked my mother if she knew how to get it out. Sadly, it decided to say, "Do you know how to get cum out of my hair?" It got even more awkward when she knew exactly what to do. On a similar note, I asked my best friend if he had a pen I could borrow recently. I didn't expect it to say, "Can I borrow your penis?" We are no longer friends. I got thrown out of a paint shop when I said I wanted to defecate in the living room. Of course, I meant decorate, but by then it was too late. The shit had already hit the fan. Literally. And who can forget the time I told my sister I wanted to tuck her children into bed. I'm sure you can all guess what that was changed to. It earned me the nickname Gary Glitter. As you can see, you have to be careful what you type. It's enough to give anyone the pancake attack. I do have to set a few things straight. First of all, I'm not drunk, and this is actually how I walk all the time. Despite what what embarrassed parents might tell their children when they ask awkward questions as I walk past. I did spend 8 years as an alcoholic in a vain attempt to correct this issue, thinking that if I drank enough, I'd walk straight. Turns out it just aggravated the blood issue further. The second thing I need to point out is this. I hate that we have so many politically correct words to describe disabled people now. When I went to school, I honestly went to a school with spastics in its name. They certainly knew how to make us feel good about ourselves. Now it's all special needs, special schools, special Olympics. I don't know what the fuck is so special about me. That is why it always alarms me when I hear about special forces going to war. Let's be realistic. You wouldn't want me to be guiding you through a minefield or trying to talk a suicide bomber out of blowing themselves up. However, if you gave me a gun, at least the Americans would have someone else to blame for friendly fire. And last but not least, I need to point out this. I am not related to Stephen Hawking in any way. However, I do hate the way people take the piss out of the way he speaks. I can really sympathise with him. I am also single. Yes, I know, it surprises me too. I have tried finding a girlfriend. Let's be honest, none of us want to be left on the shelf. And I don't mean the one in Tesco. I mean the one in the great big dating supermarket of life. The one where the most desirable people have already been taken. The cheapest have been used and brought back for a refund. And the rest of us just sit there like Tesco and brown drug sauce. Not as tasty and hardly ever picked up. Dating is hard though, especially when you're disabled. I would try speed dating, but by the time it took me to type a sentence, it would be time to move on to the next person. I'd not meet my future wife, but I'd improve my typing speed. I've tried joining uniformdating.com as well, but apparently dressing up in a Nazi uniform is against their terms and conditions. I salute them for that. So at the moment, I'm still on the shelf, next to the Weetabix, and above the Cocoa Pops. I'll see you down the red light district. They have some great half-price offers on amputees. You seem like a nice bunch of people. It is quite hard to interact with the audience when you use one of these to speak with. But I might as well try anyway. You look nice and friendly. What is your name?
Mark.
That's nice. But are you sure your name isn't Boris? Because that is the name I have stored in here. Okay, Boris. And are you having a nice time in this generic town or city? Well, that's either very good and I'm pleased, or very bad and I'm sorry, depending on your previous answer. Have you enjoyed your night so far?
Yeah.
Did you say that? My show is the funniest you have seen. I believe you did. How nice of you to say so. Thank you for being so honest. There was no need to make the other comics feel bad though. You bastard. And what do you do for a living, Boris?
I'm a sales manager.
Once again, that is not what I have got stored on here. So let's just pretend you said you were a stripper. And I sit in those seats for disabled people. It's just easier to get off. Anyway, I was in that seat and was about halfway here when another disabled person got on and asked me to move. I'll be honest, I didn't realise I'd be playing disabled top trumps when I got on, or I would have guessed more retarded. Needless to say, I didn't move. Who cares if he was both blind and deaf? I was there first. It was very awkward. He couldn't see that I was still there, and I couldn't tell him I wasn't moving because I can't speak. He wouldn't have had me anyway. In the end, I had to throw his guide dog a stick. I didn't mean for them to end up under the train. I decided to get a taxi to the venue. I checked beforehand and it didn't look that far. I thought I could easily afford it. The taxi driver had other ideas, however. I think he must have seen me coming and decided that I must be thick as well as disabled. This was confirmed when he started shouting every word slowly at me. I could have told him to stop, but to be honest, it was very amusing. Especially as I still couldn't understand his accent. Anyway, I ended up taking the longest taxi ride I've ever taken. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it cost an absolute fortune. In fact, I could have bought Greece with that sort of money. Maybe it didn't help that I was confusing the taxi driver by pretending to be the satellite navigation system though.
After 200 yards, they're left. Well done. At the roundabout, take the second exit. Or is it the third? I can never remember since they did those roadworks. Maybe it's the first exit. Yes, it's definitely the first exit. Take the first exit. Bollocks. It was the second exit. Why didn't you say something? You bastard. Never mind, I know a shortcut. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road. Could you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Take the bridge over troubled water. Winding your way down Baker Street. You're on the road to hell. Stop. Hammer time. You have reached your destination.
People have often asked me why I want to put myself in a position where everyone can stare and laugh at me. The truth is that it happens to me every day anyway. At least this way there's a scheduled time and place for it. I like to think I'm providing a public service, which is more than the government is doing at the moment. Of course, I do it because I want to be famous too. I think everyone does really. I started off in a disabled steps tribute band. They were called Ramps. That was a bit of an uphill struggle. I used to often think about going on the X Factor just to see the look on their faces when they realise I can't actually sing, or dance, or talk. I don't wonder about this anymore. The X Factor auditions came to me only recently, so obviously I went along to see what would happen. I thought I could be in with a chance, because Gareth Gates became successful despite his stutter. Choosing which song to sing to the judges was hard. Shout by Lulu was an obvious candidate, as was Don't Speak by No Doubt. But sometimes I think I say it best when I say nothing at all. In the end, I went for I Believe I Can Fly. I'll be honest, thinking how the fuck I was going to sing. I did feel a little bit bad for wasting their time. Not much though. I'm a bastard. I could see straight away that they were very confused when I walked in. The look on their faces as I began to sing was priceless. Especially as I started to sway along to the words as well. And surprisingly they rejected me without even raising a smile. In fact, they still didn't smile as I walked out and asked them if it was because my voice had sounded too flat. I'd like to play you a clip of what I think would happen if I did go on the X Factor. Give me a second to find it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to face the music. Famous in 6 million countries, 2 million records sold in Nigeria, 32 number ones in Botswana, banned from 65 international territories, declared a public nuisance in 23 British cities, recently released from prison. He fell out of the ugly tree and hit every damn branch on the way down. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Lost Voice Guy.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have been Lost Voice Girl. And the least you can do is fucking sponsor me. I'll be over by the bar at the end if you want to donate. Or you can find the link on my website, lostvoiceguy.com. I would give you a number you can text as well, but there's not much point when you can't get a signal anyway. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night.